In 2014, Elias Vance vanished. A tech architect whose life was ruled by logic, undone by a mystery no algorithm could solve. Elias was the quiet hinge upon which his company's entire security framework swung. Indispensable, meticulous, and profoundly private. His disappearance was not loud. It was an exercise in pure digital erasure. On a Tuesday evening, he completed a 6-hour coding session, sent a perfunctory all-good email to his supervisor, and logged off. His car was left meticulously parked in the garage of his upscale condo building. His keys were on the kitchen counter, next to his wallet containing $300 cash and his driver's license. His phone was resting in its wireless charging cradle, fully powered down. It was the vanishing act of a man who had planned his exit with the same precision he applied to network security, leaving behind a perfectly clean, verifiable digital void. When he missed a key board meeting 2 days later, alarms were raised. Detective Lena Rossi, then a sharp, 35-year-old investigator known for her ability to untangle complex financial crimes, took the case. Her initial assessment was simple: voluntary departure. The evidence pointed toward a man staging his exit to avoid pressure, a classic midlife reset. There was no struggle, no forced entry, and crucially, no evidence of distress or coercion. Elias had been a ghost even before he was gone. No close friends, no recent dating history, and only professional email accounts. Rossi spent 6 weeks digging into his financials. Elias's bank accounts were untouched, his large investment portfolio pristine. He had liquidated no assets, drained no reserves, and purchased no long-distance tickets. The only anomaly was a series of large, cash withdrawals made over the 6 months prior to his disappearance, all drawn from a secondary, untraceable bank branch 50 miles away, totaling nearly $150,000. The purpose of this cash drain was unknown, but its scale suggested elaborate preparation. The police searched the local forests, the hiking trails, and the nearby mountain passes. They found nothing. The professional consensus settled. Elias Vance had walked away from his life, and with his background in digital anonymity, he had simply disappeared into the anonymity of the modern world. Detective Rossi closed the file in November 2014, frustrated but adhering to the evidence. The case was filed under voluntary missing adult, probable relocation. It was her first failure, a nagging sense that the rational explanation didn't quite cover the sheer, surgical precision of the vanishing. 10 years passed. Detective Lena Rossi was now 45, her face etched with the weariness that comes from bearing witness to a city's perpetual chaos. She was respected, efficient, and, by reputation, a woman who no longer believed in clean breaks. The Vance case, filed 2014 to 419, had become her personal phantom limb. It represented the moment she trusted the surface evidence over her gut instinct that a man who prized control would never leave his life to chance. The city of Crestwood grew, but the memory of Elias Vance remained frozen, trapped in the missing person posters that faded slowly on forgotten telephone poles. Rossi, promoted to major crimes, often found herself staring at the old case board photographs. Elias, smiling faintly in his company ID badge, looking both brilliant and slightly vacant. She had closure on hundreds of cases, but Elias Vance was an open wound. She often wondered if he was living on a beach somewhere or managing a shell corporation in a foreign capital, enjoying the freedom he had so meticulously purchased with cash. The department's official stance remained unchanged. Elias was a runaway. The file was securely locked in the long-term archive, only pulled out once every 3 years for a mandatory procedural review. Each review concluding with the same phrase: no new leads. Presumed alive and voluntarily absent. In May of 2024, a different case drew the city's attention. A wildfire, sparked by a lightning strike, tore through a remote, uninhabited section of the Crestwood National Forest, a vast area of rugged mountains and deep valleys 40 miles northeast of the city. The fire raged for a week, finally contained by massive efforts. The next day, a small, specialized search and rescue team was deployed to the burn scar area. looking for hikers who might have been trapped or injured. It was a standard post-disaster sweep. They were looking for bodies or evidence of human presence. What they found was neither a body nor a standard campsite. The call came through to Major Crimes Dispatch just before 4 p.m. on a Friday. The tone was not one of panic, but of profound, stunned confusion. "We have a confirmed structure approximately 40 miles northeast, grid coordinate E47, the Forest Service ranger reported. "It's not on any forestry map. It's not military. It's something else. And there's a man inside." Detective Rossi, preoccupied with a payroll fraud case, took the call herself. "Describe the structure, Ranger," she commanded, her voice immediately shifting to its high-stakes register. "It's subterranean, Detective." The fire cleared the 100-year-old growth on top of a low ridge, exposing an enormous concrete slab, perfectly camouflaged with a layer of synthetic turf and rock chips. It survived the fire entirely. The entrance is a reinforced hatch, almost like a military bunker door. We had to use the truck winch to get it open. Inside, it's not rough. It's built. Rossi grabbed her jacket. This was the moment her gut had been waiting for. A meticulously engineered, highly concealed structure, miles from civilization, accessed by a digital architect who had drained $150,000 in cash. Within 2 hours, Rossi was standing on the ridge, the air still smelling acridly of smoke and ash. The landscape was apocalyptic, a moonscape of black earth and skeletal trees. In the center of the devastation, the pristine gray concrete of the reinforced bunker entrance was visible, a glaring, unnatural scar on the face of the scorched earth. The hatch was open, revealing a stairwell descending into the cool, deep silence of the earth. The air that rose from the depths was conditioned, odorless, and utterly foreign to the wilderness surrounding it. "He's down there, Detective," the lead SAR officer confirmed. "He hasn't resisted. He's cooperative but silent. We haven't touched anything. We just confirmed he's breathing and conscious." Rossi descended the metal stairs, her flashlight beam cutting through the dimness. The stairwell led to a pressure-sealed door that opened into a complex of rooms. It was not a damp, survivalist cellar. It was a self-contained, high-tech habitat. The walls were lined with sound-dampening panels. The air was circulated by a sophisticated filtration system, and the primary living space was lit by powerful, full-spectrum LED panels simulating daylight. She found the man seated at a steel table in what appeared to be a combined lab and office. He was thinner, his skin pale from lack of natural light, and his hair long, but his eyes were clear, lucid, and intensely focused on the detective. The SAR officer's initial report had been wrong. He hadn't just found a survivor, he had found a phantom. Rossi stepped into the light, removing her sunglasses and locking eyes with the man at the table. She didn't need fingerprints, dental records, or a witness. She knew the slope of his brow, the distinct way his right earlobe was creased from an old childhood injury, and the unnerving, profound stillness that radiated from him. "Elias Vance," she stated, her voice quiet in the engineered silence of the bunker. "It's Detective Rossi." The man, 10 years older than the photo on the missing person file, but undeniably the same, nodded once. He offered no greeting, no explanation, and no sign of relief or distress. He was simply present. Elias was brought back to the Crestwood precinct in the dead of night, slipping past the nascent media frenzy that had already begun to form. The official report was brief. Elias Vance, missing 10 years, found alive and unharmed. The truth about where he was, however, stunned every investigator who reviewed the initial schematics retrieved from the bunker's central computer. The complex was not a simple cabin or a fear-driven hideout. It was a sprawling, 3-level subterranean facility built entirely without permitting or external assistance, utilizing advanced tunneling and concrete injection techniques. It was a fortress against the world, sealed off from seismic activity, radio frequency interference, and, critically, any form of digital surveillance. The structure was built to last a century. It contained a hydroponic farm capable of sustaining up to 5 people indefinitely, a library containing thousands of physical books and enough hard drives to store the entire Library of Congress. A power core fueled by a high-efficiency geothermal loop and backup solar array, rendering it completely independent of the public power grid. A laboratory filled with complex computer servers, custom-built processors, and advanced networking equipment. This was not a survivalist panic room. It was a self-sustaining, private civilization. The initial shock among investigators was not that Elias was alive, but that he had spent the last decade in an underground citadel, effectively proving he had mastered the art of total, technologically advanced self-sufficiency. The stolen cash, the meticulous planning, the complete digital silence. It was all accounted for in the sheer scale of the compound. Elias hadn't run away from his life. He had engineered a new one, a separate world beneath the earth. The first full interview, the next morning, was short. Elias confirmed his identity and stated clearly that he was not harmed, not held against his will, and committed no crime. He simply chose to be absent. "Where were you, Elias?" Detective Rossi asked, staring at the man who had traded sunlight for concrete, humanity for data. Elias Vance, pale, sharp-eyed, and completely composed, simply replied, "I was home. I was exactly where I needed to be." The physical structure itself was the first stunning revelation. But the second, deeper, and more terrifying truth. The reason a man would build a private, digital apocalypse and live in it for a decade remained hidden behind his unwavering, intense silence. The investigators knew they had found the man, but they had yet to find the answer to the real question. They had found the where, but the why was waiting to change everything they understood about his disappearance. Detective Rossi watched as the lead analyst finally cracked the encryption on Elias's central server. A single, horrifying headline immediately flashed across the bunker's main monitor. A real-time news alert confirming the exact catastrophic event Elias had spent a decade predicting. At that instant, the deep silence of the underground city was violently broken by the piercing, blaring wail of the precinct's catastrophic failure alarms. Elias Vance, utterly composed, simply looked at Rossi, a grim triumph in his eyes. "Too late, detective," he whispered. "It's already begun. Find out the truth behind Elias Vance's terrifying prediction and the nature of the catastrophe now unfolding above ground." In Part 2. This was Trace Crime Files. Subscribe for more stories where truth is stranger than fiction, and justice is never as simple as it seems.